To get a handle on the spread of HIV, you first have to understand it. But what do you do when the people most at risk are also the hardest to find? I mean, how do you count what you can't easily see? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the really clever methods public health experts use to solve that exact problem.
Yeah, this is the big question, right? Put yourself in the shoes of a public health official. You're trying to stop a disease, but the communities you absolutely need to reach, we're talking about groups like sex workers or people who inject drugs, they're often hidden, because of stigma or because what they do is illegal. A simple phone survey or a census, that's just not going to cut it. So how do you get a real picture when the very people you need to count are trying to stay off the grid?
And let's be clear, the stakes here could not be higher. This isn't just some academic thought experiment. Getting these numbers right is absolutely critical. It's what determines where the money goes, how life-saving prevention campaigns are designed, and how treatment programs get to the people who need them the most.
So, what do we even mean by hidden populations? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Because some behaviors can be heavily stigmatized or even illegal, a lot of folks are, understandably not going to raise their hand for a traditional survey. And that makes the usual methods, which totally rely on people being open and easy to find, pretty much useless. You just can't poll a population that doesn't want to be found. So faced with this massive challenge, a bunch of global health experts got together back in 2004 to figure out a new game plan. They needed tools that could get around the old roadblocks. And out of that meeting, two really promising, kind of revolutionary sampling techniques started to get real traction, and they basically changed the game for HIV surveillance around the world.
Okay, so these two tools are called time-location sampling, or TLS for short, and respondent-driven sampling, or RDS. The best way to think of them is like two different keys, each one designed to unlock data from a very different kind of hidden community. Let's break down how each one of them works.
All right, first up, time-location sampling. The big idea here is actually pretty simple. If you can't survey people at home, then go to where they hang out. TLS is just a really systematic way of sampling people at the specific public places and times they're known to gather. Places like certain bars, clubs, or even specific street corners.
And this isn't just random guesswork. The process is super methodical. It's a four-step system. First, you map out every single potential spot. Then you create this master schedule of all the places and times. And here's the key part. You randomly select which of those time and place slots to visit. That randomness is so important. It's what makes sure the sample is as unbiased as possible when the researchers finally show up to do the surveys. This is a brilliant way to picture it, right? You can't possibly count every single fish in a giant lake. But if you take samples from a bunch of different spots at a bunch of different times, you can build a really solid statistical estimate of the entire population. TLS is doing that exact same thing, but with people. But, of course, it's not a perfect system. There are some major hurdles. For one, are the people you find at a bar really representative of everyone? Maybe not. Sometimes venue owners just say, no, you can't come in. People might be busy or just not interested in participating. And maybe most importantly, you have to think about safety for both the researchers and the people they're trying to survey.
Now, to get around these problems, experts have come up with a really clear set of best practices. It all kicks off with incredibly thorough groundwork, mapping every possible location. Researchers also have to be super diligent about documenting any place that denies them access, because that helps them understand any potential bias in their final numbers. And above all else, rock-solid safety protocols are an absolute must. That's not negotiable.
Okay, but what if the group you're studying doesn't gather in public places? What if they're really spread out, connected only through their own private social networks? Well, that's where our second tool comes into play, respondent-driven sampling. RDS completely flips the script. Instead of researchers going out to find people, it actually empowers the participants to recruit their own peers. It's this really sophisticated kind of chain referral system that uses the social fabric of a community to build a sample, letting researchers reach deep into networks that would be totally invisible to an outsider. The way it works is just fascinating because it's literally powered by the community itself. Researchers start with just a few initial people who they call seeds. After these seeds get surveyed, they're given a few special coupons to hand out to their peers. When those new people come in, they get surveyed, and then they become recruiters too. The sample just grows organically, wave after wave, creating these long recruitment chains that can reach far into a hidden network. And that is the perfect way to put it. It's all about leveraging social trust. I mean, think about it. You're way more likely to join a study if a friend you actually trust gives you a coupon and says, hey, this is legit. RDS basically harnesses that natural peer-to-peer connection and then puts a powerful mathematical model behind it to analyze the data. But just like TLS, RDS has its own unique set of challenges. How do you track the people who are offered a coupon but say no? The first few seeds are so important. If you pick the wrong ones, the whole sample can be skewed. The math also assumes people recruit their friends randomly, but maybe they just pick their closest buddies. And the big one. How do you make sure that the person who shows up with a coupon is actually part of the group you're trying to study? And once again, researchers have developed some really smart solutions. It turns out that really long recruitment chains, like more than 9 waves long, can actually help wash out the bias from the initial seeds. And just like with TLS, doing deep research beforehand is key to picking diverse, well-connected seeds. To handle verification, stays will often hire and train skilled screeners, sometimes from the community itself, whose job is just to make sure everyone is eligible.
So we've got these two really powerful but really different tools. And that leads us to the obvious question: which one's better? Well, the answer, like it so often is in science, is it really depends on the job you're trying to do.
This slide really lays it all out. TLS is your go-to method when the population is at least a little bit visible, when they gather at places you can actually identify. The big plus is that you have more control, and you can get really reliable data on trends over time. RDS, on the other hand, is the choice when a population is truly hidden but is tightly networked. Its superpower is its incredible ability to reach folks who would never, ever show up in a public venue survey.
Now this brings us to this really cool idea called the forgiveness factor. Look, no sampling method is ever going to be perfect. There's always a chance for some kind of bias. But here's the key insight. As long as you use the exact same method consistently year after year, the trends you see in the data are incredibly valuable. The idea is that the biases stay consistent too, so if you see a big change from one year to the next, it probably reflects a real change happening in the community.
And that really brings us to what's next. These methods were designed for physical places, for real-world social circles. But today, so much of our connection happens online, right? So the question we want to leave you with is this. As the world moves online, how do these powerful tools for counting the unseen need to evolve to keep up the fight?